Introduction. The fact is that we as human beings practically slaves to our habits, both positive and negative. Whether we like it or not, day by day, we will go make that cup of coffee when we wake up or take that cold morning shower, if you are a weirdo. The thing is, that habits are part of who we are, and every day we consciously and unconsciously are performing habits. We can break down habits into 3 simple groups. The first type is those habits we don't even notice we are doing. These habits can be things like taking a shower in the morning, combing your hair, and even brushing your teeth. At least I hope that is something you regularly do. The second kind, you guessed it, are the habits we consciously focus on accomplishing. Specifically, the healthy ones that build and grow us. Like eating a healthy diet, getting enough sleep, and exercising regularly. Yes, I know, you know what's coming next. The third kind of habit involves those habits that are seen to have a negative impact on your body, your psyche, and your soul. These things include procrastination, ill discipline, smoking, excessive alcohol consumption, etc. At the beginning of every year, most of the world is enthusiastic, because they have their New Year resolutions all planned for them to change their lives. They hope the fresh start will give them the will to accomplish their aspirations. However, within a few weeks, even days, most of those people start falling back into their old habits. The worst part about this is that we go back to our old habits knowing we have failed. Some take their failure and use it to motivate them through the year, and they become successful, while others just wait for the next new year to try again. After a few years, setting New Year resolution ends up more disappointing than rewarding. Then, because of platforms like YouTube and TV, we are led to believe that only people with a lot of willpower or drive can accomplish great things. Falsehood. Don't worry though, I have got your back. I will help you control your habits, and after reading this book you will start your journey to become the best version of yourself. You will learn the necessary steps for overcoming the bad habits that are holding you back. You will gain the knowledge that you need to break those bad habits and build up new ones. Habits are built due to the influences you have in your life and the environment you are exposed to day by day. That is why breaking a habit is a skill. Unfortunately, there is no quick supplement or cocaine snort that will speed up the process. It is just you, motivating yourself to become a rock star in your life. Like any other skill, it needs practice to be successful. I will help equip you with these skills so that you can be competent when facing your habit, the little bugger. If you want to change your habits, then you must work on developing your skills continually. Habits become automatic when it is practiced with consistent repetition, so to break the bad habits we're going to need some constant repetition. Chapter 1: The Fundamentals of Habits. For you to understand how to break bad habits, you need to know what exactly a habit is. Most people generally know what a habit is, but humor me for a second while I get into the details. The dictionary definition of a habit is a recurrent and often unconscious pattern of behavior, which is usually acquired through regular repetition. To further understand this concept, you need to know how your brain works. The mind is created by and connected by a complex array of neurons. These neurons are fed with input from our sensory nerves and organs, which are then delivered to the brain. Cool, right? These neurons are interconnected with others throughout the body and form one of the most significant frameworks of interconnected elements of the body. The brain registers and maintains pathways of various neurons through the chemical impulses that it receives from the neurons. To increase the cognitive ability of the brain, it has to keep a simple, streamlined process. This process includes setting the most used pathways as connections, which allows them to run automatically. Now what about those bad habits? There isn't a specific definition of bad habits, as a bad habit to some may be a good or neutral habit to others. You need to consider whether or not your habit has a positive or negative effect on your life and the lives of those around you. By asking yourself this question, you can help guide yourself in defining your habits. A positive habit will bring you success and satisfaction in areas in your life, whereas a bad habit is one that can ruin the success you experience in life. You can consider a bad habit as anything that takes up your time and/or prevents you from achieving your goals, without providing you anything in return. For example, you might have the habit of playing video games during your free time, a bit like me and most of the people I know. This could be a good or bad habit, depending on how you do it. If you usually play video games with your family, it could be a positive habit, as it is the element that is bringing your family together and building on your relationship. However, continually playing video games by yourself every day contributes to nothing, making it a bad habit. When determining whether your habits are good or bad, you have to be honest with yourself. I did not play video games with my family, mainly because they were not interested in that sort of thing. However, I did have friends that played with me, and it became more of a social event than a grind to get to the next level. So you should take the time to weight your habits and see if they are beneficial to you. If something hinders you from achieving your goals, write it down as a bad habit, and plan to break the habit. While you can pinpoint specific bad habits quite easily, there are some things you are so used to the habit that you actually don't recognize how it is affecting you. Therefore, you need to discover how you can realize your habits so that you can do something about them. Recognizing your habits. Most of us are so used to our habits that we don't actually realize that you have those habits. The first step is to be aware of the habits you have to make that change. You can't change what you don't know, right? Of course. You can become aware of both your positive and negative habits by doing a self-assessment. Here are two methods that you can use to help you identify both your good and your bad habits. Personal assessment. Now this may sound a bit cheesy, but good way to identify your habits is to do a bit of self-reflection. Caution, it may be ugly. Self-reflection is just analyzing your daily behaviors and taking note of how they make you feel. Much like how you identify unhealthy diets, which I talk about in my book Eat for Success. If you always find yourself snacking on sugary foods, and feeling guilty about it each time it happens, then pat yourself on the back because you've just narrowed down one of your bad behaviors. Although I know a few people who aren't guilty at all, but that's a different issue. You can also use a planner as a way to recognize your bad habits. Most of the time, we tend to lie to ourselves about our bad habits or ignore them completely. With Planner, you can quickly note your bad habits. To do this, take a notebook and pen, or use your phone to record down everything that you do daily. You don't have to be super in-depth, but be honest. If you want to find out if you have any bad eating habits, write down everything that you eat in a day, how it makes you feel, and what you think you could do about it. When you take the time to write down what you do every day, you can uncover and reveal habits that you didn't even know existed. External assessment. When you do an external assessment, you use information outside yourself to understand and evaluate your habits. Take time to observe and study the people around you to hopefully gain insight to identify and solve your own issues. A good idea is reading books that will clue you in on different behaviors and their consequences. Another example of using this assessment process is to discover your habits is observing the lives of successful people around the world. Look for people who accomplish things in their lives, not necessarily someone who has climbed Everest, but someone who has a morning running routine and has stuck to it. Note what helped them to achieve their goals and determine if there were any habits involved in aiding their success. Observing successful people will help you note some bad habits that you might not have considered harmful before. Even if you don't identify any bad habits, just hang around those people for a while, and you will find they will rub off on you. Types of habits. Habits are a crucial part of our daily lives. Some of these habits started when we were young, like sucking your finger. Some people still do that when they are older. I'm not judging, but you should probably stop. Most people categorize habits into two areas, the bad and the good. The bad habits tend to be more popular than the good ones and can include procrastination, laziness, lying, etc., which seem to be the common ones in today's society. 4 categories of habit. The categories are as follows: instigating, avoiding, regimental, unconscious. Everyone falls into one of these groups, so let's dig a little deeper so you can see where you fit in. Instigating habits. These are established habits that have been developed throughout the course of our lives to help guide us. They tend to take us on a path that is rewarding on its own, where goals aren't necessarily as important as the process. These can be referred to as open-ended habits. Since you aren't focused on the result, what happens during the process can be framed to be a success. Examples of instigating habits include, my favorites: reading, working out, eating healthy, avoiding habits. These kinds of habits everyone knows about, and they are the one we are trying to break off. Examples of these would be social media addiction, gambling, gossiping, drinking, smoking, and all the rest. You know what I am talking about. These are the habits that we try hard to get rid of. For example, in the case of gossiping, rather than trying to stop the habit, you can look for ways to compliment others instead, and by constantly repeating this you will beat the habit. Regimental habits. These kinds of habits involve doing an activity each time the same way. It is an automatic response. Once you form a regimental habit, you lose control of the present. These habits usually become unconscious if you aren't careful and on the watch. For example, parking in the same spot every day, showering, drinking a cup of coffee every morning, and more. For me personally, when I lock my bicycle up at a public area, I will find myself always going back to that same spot each time. This is mainly just because I feel safer doing it. Weird, I know. Unconscious habits. We don't see these habits, so we have to rely on our friends and family to help us unveil them. These are habits become embedded in our character and lifestyle. We don't have conscious control over these habits. They include pessimistic views, negativity, overspending, biting your nails, etc. They are quite horrible, and it's why some elderly people turn out to be either as sweet as sugar or as sour as lemons. It is just the attitude they have practiced their whole lives. So you see how your habit can be a reflection of your life, and how you want it to be a good reflection, which is why you are reading this in the first place. Deeper habits. Besides these habit categories, there are also further groups branching of these. There are 3 which I will talk about here. Motor. These are the activities performed by the movement of the body. They are the habits that directly relate to our physical actions. Motor habits are things like walking and talking, sitting and standing, and many more actions performed by the body. Intellectual. These habits relate to the psychological process that is needed for our mental abilities. Intellectual habits include logical thinking, reasoning, and observation, etc. Character. It may be quite obvious what the next one is. It is the habits that are expressed through our character. Examples of this would be trusting people, being honest and organized, etc. These can be called emotional habits because they have the essence of feelings and emotions. Chapter 2: What forms habits? As I mentioned before, your life today is the sum of the things that you have repeatedly done over your lifetime. Your life is essentially a product of your habits, whether they are good or bad. Basically, the things you repeatedly do solidify your beliefs and the personality you exhibit to the world. Sometimes, we don't even know how we exhibit certain habits, but we just do. The fact is, we do 100% know that over time, we end up doing them unconsciously. Understanding how habits work is the key to a life where anything is possible. That may sound a bit grandiose, but it's the truth. The pattern of habits. Every habit that you develop, whether good or bad, has a pattern. It follows a certain route. A bad habit works the same way as a good habit by developing a pattern. There are 3 steps that are followed to create a habit. Step 1, the reminder. Step 2, the routine. Step 3, the reward. The pattern makes sense, doesn't it? Whether you have the habit of reading, running, lying, smoking and so on, the pattern is exactly the same. The good news is that every habit that is learned and can be unlearned through the same process it was formed. As habits are a result of repetition, that's all you need to break it. Any kind of habit you want, you can learn through repetition. I'm sure you have heard the saying, practice makes perfect. Well, it's true. Shocker. All you need is dash of persistence and a drop discipline, and voila, you have your habit potion. With persistence and training, you can develop your character and personality. You have the power to change your habits and produce a new one. There is no one on earth that can stop you. What sucks about you knowing this is that you have no excuses now. Looking at the good habits, there are numerous things that could be responsible for the development, including motivation and the drive to succeed. Bad habits are typically caused by stress and boredom. Things like drinking, smoking, biting your nails, etc., are ways people respond to stress and boredom. It does not have to be like this. You have the power to deal with it without developing bad habits. You can't escape the pattern of habits, the 3 R's if you will. Step 1, the reminder. The reminder is the first pattern of how habits work. It is responsible for telling your brain to go into that automatic mode when an external trigger reminds you of the habit. And from that moment onwards, your subconscious mind is in control of your behavior. As your body becomes more familiar with that trigger, the trigger turns into a button, instantly switching you into that habit. Step 2, the routine. After the reminder happens, the output behavior is the routine. The routine could be mental, physical, or emotional. Getting into a routine can happen quite fast. This is the key to it becoming a habit because it doesn't require you to think about the process. Luckily, it is not permanently stuck in your muscle memory. It is like cycling to work, and you automatically know where to turn without any serious thinking. The issue is that when a routine is learned, it is more difficult to undo it. Step 3, the reward. There is a reward to every routine. The reward process is telling your brain that this activity is worth repeating because it yielded X results. For example, you may start a morning running routine, and in the action of completing the routine you are suffering, but afterwards when the endorphins kick in and you feel amazing. Not to mention the aesthetic, physical changes that happen to your body as a result. That reward is what keeps you going. This reward can end up becoming an extreme craving, thus an addiction. As humans, we like to feel good about ourselves, so most routines that stick with us are the rewards that make us feel better. There is a specific neural network for each habit that is formed in the brain. This unique neural network strengthens whenever you repeat an activity, and it also weakens when an activity is stopped. Therefore, some people may have stopped a habit, and then believe that they've overcome it, will later find themselves going back to it. In this case, the only way of changing the habit is to form another habit that is powerful enough to replace or override the old habit pattern. Chapter 3: Increasing Quality of Life. Whether or not you realize it, your habits can hinder your efficiency and effectiveness as an individual. Bad habits have the capability of growing you into a lifestyle that can crush the life you want to build. On the other end of the spectrum, good habits can help you blossom and cultivate personal success. Habits can make you use your successes and your failures. Bad habits versus your brain. It's quite obvious that a bad habit will affect your brain, either directly or indirectly. Bad habits can become extremely addictive. Therefore, it is so much harder to break a bad habit. It will be difficult creating a habit that can give the same level of reward as the addiction. Unfortunately, our brains are hardwired to find those things to satiate the addiction. That addiction is essentially an addiction to dopamine, which is feel-good chemical released and is felt through the pleasure center of your brain. FYI, it located on the prefrontal cortex. You could view this as a chemical that gives you a high. Repetition causes your brain to become dependent on the routine. Like how you build muscle and therefore are able to run a longer distance, bad habits also tend to build up the amount of dopamine you need to achieve that high. Your brain gets used to these high dopamine levels and increases its tolerance, which means the next time you do that habit, you need higher volumes or at a faster pace. This can result in you feeling increasingly down at times when you aren't on that high, because you have a higher dopamine tolerance than you used to have. Which means the point that used to make you feel satisfied no longer have the same effect. This lowers your quality of life and robs the feeling fulfillment from you in your day-to-day activities. Bad habits versus health. During your childhood, your mom might have told you not to suck your thumb or pick your nose. Come on, admit it, my mom did, because we all did it. You were probably a little, rebellious fella, and when your mom wasn't looking, you continued the action. You can't really be blamed. You have no idea how socially acceptable the act is, or if you did, you just don't really care. However, it is a bad habit nonetheless and should be stopped soon so you don't become known as the teenager who picks his nose. There are some habits that are bad, but not as harmful and physically damaging as some. You need to be aware and stop these habits/addictions immediately. Absence of exercise. I think it's a no-brainer that exercise is key in growing your physical fitness and mental health. Exercise is a good habit you should build. However, once you make that habit of not exercising, you risk giving yourself serious medical conditions and various other illnesses and ailments, because you are depriving your immune system. I personally have made a habit of going for a run 3 times a week. I go on a short run on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and in the days between those I do other non-cardio exercises to build strength. You don't have to do what I do, you could do more or less, it's your choice, but I highly recommend you implement some type of fitness regime. Alcohol. The fact is that even moderate alcohol consumption ends up damaging the body and brain cells. Some people have a different definition of moderate, but that's not what this is about. When you drink too much alcohol, you open yourself up to a massive range of health problems, liver issues, brain damage, high blood pressure and diabetes. Now isn't that scary? Drinking too much can also interfere with your normal sleep patterns, which can lead to anxiety. I don't know about you, but I love my sleep time and I dare someone to get between me and my pillow. Smoking. I am pretty confident when I say this. Most people know smoking is terrible for your health. I know smokers that say it is bad, yet they still continue to participate in this habit. As with any other habit, it still has to do with the dopamine resistance discussed earlier. You end up smoking 3 times a week, then 3 a day, then before you know it, you're smoking 60 cigarettes a day like my grandfather. He made the decision and stopped. This is due to your dopamine resistance increasing. Smoking does not just affect the smoker, but also the people around them, as well as causing lung cancer, but can also cause major issues for pregnant women, etc. If you are currently in this habit, I implore you to stop. Chapter 4: Breaking Bad Ones. We like being rewarded, and that's just a fact. There's nothing wrong with that, just to be clear. Unfortunately, this means that trying to change something that you enjoy doing can be incredibly challenging. You need to make the decision to change your habits before you start trying. You have to lay out the pros and cons to why you are doing it. If someone tells you to run, you're not going to, but if someone tells you to run for money for a charity, you will. This is because you have a reason to the action. So, you can't start breaking a routine if you have not got this set right in your mind. In the early stages of you trying to break out of a deeper habit, you may experience some depression and you will be tempted to repeat your habit for one last time. You need to stick to the plan, and break your bad habits. What you need to do. The process is difficult, we both know that, but nothing worth achieving is easy. You need to be honest with yourself that it will be challenging, but with enough determination and persistence, you'll be able to break your bad habits for good. Let's go through the steps to crushing that habit. Step 1. Define it. The first step is to identify or define the habit. This is the time to do that self-assessment that referred to in the first chapter. When you identify the issue/habit, you will have a better chance of dealing with it. You need to accept that the habit is a problem and that it is doing more harm than good. With that realization, you need to be willing to do whatever is necessary to stop it. Step 2. Replace it. The next step to breaking any bad habit is finding a replacement habit. For example, I loved playing video games. Instead of just stopping and lounging about doing nothing, I occupied my mind and body with fitness, work, writing. You need to participate in something that you enjoy and do it over the time you would normally be gaming or doing whatever habit you have. If you like to read, pick up a good book that you've been meaning to read and get started reading, like this one for example. The best is to occupy your time with consuming knowledge and developing yourself. I go into greater depth with my book, Eat for Success. Your goal when it comes to breaking bad habits is to avoid leaving an empty space in your day where your bad habit used to control, because your habit will come rolling right back. Just please, don't replace your bad habit with another unhealthy habit, that's just counterproductive. Step 3. Motivate. Motivations is the power that drives us to our goals. Therefore, motivation will guide you to your goal of being free from your routine. You don't have any motivation? Find some. YouTube is a fabulous reservoir of knowledge, with people that may be on the same journey as you. Go to them for some motivation, I sure do. Break it down, find the deeper reasons for changing the habit. You will find those reasons will give you the motivation. In the case of smoking, you could look at how it affects those around you indirectly, which could be all the motivation you need. If improving your health and the health of those around you isn't enough for you to quit smoking, you should seriously consider how much the habit is financially impacting you. If you smoke a pack a day, that is around $170, and that is $2,040 a year. Think of all the lettuce and carrots you could have bought with that. I am kidding, but you get the idea. That's a couple of date nights right there. If your finances are tight, this is excellent motivation for you. Let's say you happen to have a lot of cash available or use. Most people don't. You might want to look at the time that you spend smoking as your reason. As an active smoker, you may be spending plus 1,000 hours a year smoking. That is 40 out of the 365 days you have in a year. That's a lot of your life that's disappeared in a puff of smoke. Bad cigarette joke, I know. Think all the things you could be doing in that time to achieve your goals. I have given a lot of damn good reasons you could use as motivation, but there's a final one. Your health. I'll leave it there. Step 4. Environment alteration. The environment you live in and the people you surround yourself with can affect your progress. Being around the people that partake in the bad habit you are trying to stop will hinder your ability to stop yourself. That is the issue with rehab centers. They have success, no doubt, but the patients, or whatever you want to call them, are constantly exposed to like-minded people, and that has a negative effect in this case. If you want to overcome your bad habit, then you have to change your environment and distance yourself from the people that tend to influence your choices. That's an easy thing to say, but a massive challenge to do, as this may require you to change friends. Tips for the change. The previous steps are the broad steps to break your bad habit. In most cases, these comprehensive steps will also require additional supplementary actions to help make them more useful. Here are some other things that you might have to do to change your habits. Mindset. Your brain is the central hub of all decision-making processes. If you want to get something done, whatever it is, you need to get all the papers sorted out in your head first. Commitment. A must for accomplishing anything in your life is to be committed. You can't start the process and then dump it after a few weeks. You have to stick with it. Keep grinding. Get motivated. Stay committed. Understanding. Breaking a habit is a battle, and before every battle it is crucial to know your enemy. Luckily you are the chess player in this game, so you know what is happening on both sides. You need to understand what the trigger is for the habit is. What tells your brain to initiate the habit? Identifying this will get you one step closer. Assessment. Once you understand the trigger, you can begin to understand how to break the cycle. You will be able to understand better the rewards your brain is continually looking for, and you can look for a replacement habit that is healthier to take over. Bad habits are often built up during times of boredom or stress, because you are looking for something that is more entertaining. You need to be aware of what prompts the bad habit. Most habits occur every day, which means we aren't aware of them when we are doing them. You need to be aware of when it is happening. Jot down a note in the memo pad on your phone. Writing down what you've been feeling, what's happened, and what you've been thinking about will help you lay a good background of how to deal with your habit. Planning. Now you can make a plan to reduce or completely eliminate the triggers to your habit. Set an easy-to-reach goal, and each time you reach it increases it. This can help you to create new patterns of action. It is important to remember that your plan will only work if you stick to it. Remember to stay committed. Behavioral alterations. Another thing that you will need to do if you want to break your bad habits is to change your behavior. Changing your behavior will help to set you up on the right path to success. These are some ways you can go about accomplishing this. Environment. You can drastically reduce your temptations by changing your environment. For example, going home using a route that doesn't go via McDonald's can help you resist the temptation to get that delicious Oreo McFlurry. Avoiding a place like this can reduce the chances of your habits getting triggered. Obstacles. If you can create obstacles that make the habit as enjoyable as it used to be. There was a boy in my primary school who had this special nail polish that tasted disgusting to try to dissuade him from biting his nails. Another way you can do this is by finding someone else who is trying to break the same habit and join forces with them. 2 is better than 1. Limiting distractions is also extremely helpful. Just switch off your phone so you don't go check Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, etc. You could also give yourself some type of punishment. For example, you have to do 10 push-ups every time you bite your nails. 1 step at a time. Take the process 1 step at a time. You need to set realistic short-term goals to achieve your main goal. Instead of saying, "I will no longer have sugar in my coffee," rather say, "I will go down 1/2 teaspoon of sugar every month." This is what I did, and it was very effective. It's not fun, because the coffee tastes like something is missing initially, but your taste buds adjust. Now I have no sugar in my coffee and I enjoy it just as much. Bite-sized pieces will make the process easier. Treat yourself. Initially, as your bad habits were given rewards for them to become a habit, we must do the same to stay on track to building a good habit. After reaching a goal, reward yourself immediately. Of course, if you are a smoker, don't go reward yourself with a puff, have a mint chewing gum. Choose a reward that you like and repeatedly do it until the reward is no longer needed. Patience. This is one thing I struggle with tremendously, but it is part of the process to achieving your goals. Breaking a habit is a challenging task. It can take years for you to achieve it. That does sound pretty daunting, I know. This means you have to learn to be patient. Even if a month passes without any sign of progress or success, don't quit. You have the strength and the power to stick to it, because you know it will change your life for the better. Breaking your bad habits is quite simple, but at the same time it is also a complicated process. Trust me and follow the steps I have outlined in this book. Rome wasn't built in a puff of a cigarette, and you won't be able to break your bad habits with a puff either. Chapter 5: Forming Good Habits. Remember, it is crucial you know what your bad habits are and have a good idea of what habit or activity you want to replace it with before you start your quest to breaking it. Replacement. You need a replacement to the habit to have a higher chance of you succeeding. I know I have laid out a lot of steps you need to follow, but I promise these are the last one. These are a few steps to help you with replacement. Step 1: Small changes. Believe it or not, but micro adjustments to your daily routine can dramatically change your life. When forming good habits to replace the bad ones, you need to start small and find a decent habit that you can stick with for the rest of your life. You really don't want to start off with unrealistic habits goals because you are just setting yourself up for failure. You can't change who you are with the snap of a finger. If you could, I'd be Chris Hemsworth, Thor, already. So, if you are looking to achieve a health and fitness goal, you cannot start by setting a goal to do a beep test 4 times a week if you are overweight or undertrained. Rather, start with a habit that you know you can do and build that habit over time. Step 2: Decision time. To start forming good habits successfully, you need to decide the time when you will do the new habit. The easiest time would be the time you would normally do the bad habit. However, if your habit allows, the best time would be in the morning when you have energy. Give the morning routine a try, even if you don't consider yourself a morning person. If you are really struggling with the mornings, then change before you stop having the will to stick to your commitment. You may struggle to find the will to keep up with your planned routine. This willpower fatigue will make it harder to resist temptation. Step 3. Triggers. The same way triggers can cause you to develop a bad habit, you can also use them to your advantage to form a new habit. Your trigger may be connected to a routine, so find a way to implement your habit into your routine. Step 4. Change your environment. Making changes to your environment will make it much easier to follow your new habit. For example, if you want to create a habit of going for a run in the morning, do what I do, and put my running clothes and socks next to my bed. What I do to get myself into the habit of stretching, is I get an apple and while I eat it, I stretch my quads, calves, hamstrings etc. Another goal of yours may be to drink more water. What I do is I sleep with half a bottle of water next to my bed. When I wake up I have a big swig, then carry it downstairs, refill it, and place it next to the items I will take out with me for the day so I don't forget it. You want to hit that 2-liter mark for your water intake per day. Step 5. Use your imagination. As much as you like to imagine the results after implementing this habit, you also want to visualize the steps you need to do the next day, to stick with it. This will help you stay focused and will aid in you building the habit into your routine much faster. Imagining the end result isn't bad, it can also be extremely motivating. When I go for a run and am starting to get tired, I tell myself why I'm doing this and what it will do for me in the future. Research done by the University of California revealed that visualizing yourself achieving your goal can help in forming a new habit, but only if you also imagine how you will meet your goal. That's how you keep things realistic. You need to picture yourself doing the daily routine that will help achieve your goal. Step 6. Strategize. Nothing ever goes as planned, and as Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan, till they get punched in the face. It is a massive cliché, but it is the cold, hard truth, which means you need to develop a strategy to determine what you will do if your habit routine gets interrupted. First, you need to identify what are the circumstances that will hinder you completing your habit. Then you can decide on your POA, plan of action, for the given scenario. For example, if I have a meeting and it happens to fall over the time, I normally go have a workout. My POA could be to wake up earlier that morning to get my fitness in or replace my leisure time with that workout. Step 7. Treat yourself. Every day that you successfully practice your new habit, give yourself a reward. You don't necessarily need to go out and buy some treats to reward yourself with, you can give yourself a simple pat on the back. That's a low-cost reward there. Remember, if you feel good after repeating the action, then you will start building that habit into your routine. That's why giving yourself rewards when you successfully practice your new habit will help you better stick it and actually enjoy it as well. Don't beat yourself up. If you have a short period of time where you are unable to conform to your habit plan, it's no biggie. I had a skin condition, which left me in extreme pain, and I was unable to go running, because it would affect the healing process. The important thing is not to give up on your plan. Most habits can be formed in about 21 days or around 18 times of repetition. I moved the location of the deodorant in my room and it took me 6 days to start going to the new spot. Research done by the UCL, University College of London, discovered that missing one opportunity to perform the behavior did not affect the habit formation process. This means you can botch up your plan, but you will still be able to get on your feet and get going. Conclusion. I can guarantee you that you are not alone. Everyone in the entire world has a bad habit that they would like to break. I'm currently working on not procrastinating my work. This book is part of me working on breaking my own habits. The worst thing you can do is have a bad habit that you know about, but don't do anything about. It may take you a considerable amount of time to get into the position to make a plan to break it. Just beware of procrastination, bad habit. Get it done. Don't take too long to start on the journey. You don't want to get comfortable with your habit. Each time you don't stop the habit, you are making it more difficult to break. Just do not forget that you must not try break too many habits all in one go. You will tire yourself out, physically and mentally crash, and become depressed because you are not able to accomplish anything. I challenge you now to go find your bad habit and give him a kick up the backside. I hope you enjoyed breaking bad habits. Don't forget to leave a review. If you want to improve your mindset, boost self-esteem and build better habits, then you will love Eat for Success. If you would like to stay updated with new releases, then subscribe.